What if the life you're living doesn't actually belong to you? Not the name on your ID, not the address you come home to, but the life, the path, the choices, the beliefs that shape every step you take. What if those weren't born from your soul, but planted by someone else? You wake up, you check your phone, you go to work, you perform the rituals of adulthood like a machine built for expectations, smiling when expected, producing when required, resting only enough to repeat the cycle. You achieve, you consume, you try to feel something, but the emptiness lingers. You tell yourself you're just tired, just distracted, that you'll feel better next week or next job or next relationship. But deep down, a quieter voice whispers the truth. This isn't it. This was never it. Carl Jung once said, "The most terrifying thing is to accept oneself completely." But most people never get close because they've spent their entire lives trying to become who they were told to be. This isn't living, it's role-playing. It's a carefully edited version of life, filtered, performed, and pre-approved by the people you were afraid to disappoint. But how long will you keep running on autopilot? And more importantly, what happens when you finally stop? The question isn't whether you're alive. The question is, are you awake? There's a script playing in your head, and it's not yours. It began before you had words, before you had memory, voices that told you what was good, what was dangerous, what made you worthy, what made you lovable. They weren't trying to deceive you, they were trying to protect you, but protection often comes at a cost. Carl Jung understood this well. He believed most people are not truly living. They are acting out roles created by unconscious forces, by parents who needed you to be easy, by schools that taught obedience over thought, by a culture that rewards predictability, not authenticity. You've been conditioned to succeed, but not to ask why, to achieve, but not to feel, to impress, but not to understand yourself. You've seen how the world numbs you, how the shadow within quietly steals your time. But this goes deeper. Further, we'll uncover Jung's solution, not just how to stop wasting your life, but how to truly live it. Not through hustle, not through perfection, but through individuation and reclaiming the parts of you you abandoned just to survive. Because what comes next isn't motivation, it's transformation. You chase a career path that never excited you. You enter relationships that feel familiar, not fulfilling. You mimic emotions you've seen modeled, but rarely explore the ones you actually feel. You live according to a blueprint handed to you by a world that doesn't know who you are. Jung called this the persona, the mask we wear to survive social expectations. But the danger isn't in wearing the mask, it's in forgetting that it's a mask at all. Ask yourself this: who decided what success means to you? Who taught you how to love? Who convinced you that your worth is measured in output, attention, or approval? And more importantly, what dreams have you silenced because they didn't fit the script? This is how people waste their lives, not in laziness, not in failure, but in obedience, in mistaking someone else's map for their own destiny. And the longer you live out that hidden script, the harder it becomes to hear the voice underneath, the one that was yours all along, faint, buried, but still there, waiting. Wasting your life doesn't always look like destruction. Sometimes it looks like being busy, productive, even successful. But deep underneath, something feels off, tired, hollow, restless. That's the shadow. Carl Jung believed that every human carries a shadow self. The parts of you you were told were unacceptable, the rage, the envy, the neediness, the desire to be seen. Instead of expressing them, you buried them. Not to deceive others, but to be accepted by them. But what we repress doesn't disappear, it festers. The shadow doesn't knock on your door screaming, it whispers. It sabotages relationships by making you lash out or stay silent when you should speak. It fuels the fear that keeps you stuck in jobs, cities, and patterns that shrink you. It makes you feel like you're constantly at war with yourself. You're not exhausted because you're working too hard. You're exhausted because you're using your energy to hide. Hide the parts of you that want more. Hide the parts of you that feel too sensitive. Hide the parts of you that don't fit the identity you've carefully curated. So you scroll instead of reflect. You joke instead of ask for help. You give instead of ask. You perform instead of exist. All of this takes energy, and eventually that energy runs out. Not all at once, but quietly. You lose interest in your own dreams. You stop challenging your limits. You tell yourself you're just tired. But what you really are is disconnected. Jung warned that if the shadow is not acknowledged, it will take control and live your life for you. And it won't do it loudly, it will do it silently, through choices that look rational but are rooted in fear, through relationships that feel comfortable but cost you your truth. So ask yourself, are you tired because you've done too much, or because you've spent years being someone you're not? The shadow is always there, not to destroy you, but to be integrated so you can finally stop hiding and start living. You're not bored, you're overstimulated, flooded with information, drowning in distractions, and slowly forgetting what silence feels like. We live in an age where everything is designed to pull you away from yourself. Your phone vibrates before your thoughts can form. A new show autoplays before you question why you're watching. Another scroll, another escape, another hit of noise. And it feels like relief. But it isn't, it's anesthesia. Carl Jung warned us about the danger of collective conformity. How the more we disconnect from our inner world, the more we become puppets of the outer one. And today, that outer world has learned to speak the language of comfort. But comfort doesn't mean clarity, and peace isn't the same as numbness. You've been taught that pain is the enemy, that discomfort should be avoided at all costs. But what if the discomfort is where the truth lives? What if the silence you're avoiding is the only place you'll ever hear yourself? Modern self-care tells you to rest, to unplug, to be gentle with yourself. And yes, there's wisdom in that. But there's also danger when comfort becomes a cage, when you stop asking hard questions, when you start mistaking pleasure for purpose. The truth is, your potential was never going to be found inside an algorithm, and healing was never going to come from content that disappears in 15 seconds. Real growth demands stillness, reflection, pain, and our world is allergic to all three. So instead, you're offered shortcuts, motivational reels, empty affirmations, 1,000 tools to feel better, but none to become better. Because becoming better is violent. It means shedding false layers. It means facing your loneliness without numbing it. It means choosing meaning over mood, even when it hurts. Numbness is not peace, it's decay wearing a soft robe. And if you don't choose to feel, eventually you won't choose at all. You'll just scroll through life, perfectly distracted and permanently asleep. The solution to a wasted life is not productivity, not a better routine, not waking up earlier, not chasing louder dreams. It's individuation, Jung's quiet, brutal, and beautiful answer to what it means to truly live. Individuation isn't about self-improvement. It's not about becoming someone new. It's about remembering who you were before the world told you who to be. According to Jung, individuation is the process of integrating all parts of yourself, the light and the shadow, the known and the forgotten. It's not a goal, it's a reckoning. Because to individuate, you must confront the things you've spent your whole life avoiding. The pain you buried so deeply it became your personality. The desires you suppressed so long they stopped knocking. The freedom you feared so much you traded it for certainty. Most people never do this work, not because they can't, but because the cost is too high. Because real freedom demands responsibility. And authenticity, it demands sacrifice. You'll have to let go of the roles that earned you approval. You'll have to say no when silence would have kept the peace. You'll have to feel the full weight of your own emotions without outsourcing them to distractions or relationships. It will feel like death at first, because in many ways it is. The death of the false self, the persona that smiled when it wanted to scream. the ambition that wasn't really yours, the identity built on survival, not truth. But what emerges after that death is something rare, not perfect, not always happy, but whole. This is what it means to live meaningfully, to move through the world not as a reaction, not as a mask, but as an integrated being. Someone who has met their shadow and decided to stop running. Because you don't find meaning, you create it by choosing to meet yourself completely. And until you do, no amount of success, love, or validation will feel like enough. Because deep down, you'll know it was all built by a stranger you've never truly met. You. At this point, something might be stirring inside you, a tightness in your chest, a thought you can't quite shake. Maybe it's guilt, maybe regret, or maybe it's that quiet, aching voice asking, why didn't I see this earlier? Why did I waste so much time? Why did I follow a path that never felt like mine? Why did I ignore the signs and the exhaustion, the disconnection, the longing? But here's the truth. You weren't supposed to see it earlier because you weren't ready. Carl Jung believed the psyche doesn't bloom on command. It unfolds in its own time, like a dream that only makes sense when you finally wake up. Not on a schedule designed by society, not in sync with your peers, not by force, shame, or pressure, but by readiness. And readiness only comes when the illusion starts to collapse. We're taught to treat life like a checklist. Graduate, get the job, find the partner, get married, buy a house, be productive, be happy, be someone others approve of, smile for the camera, post the highlights, stay busy, stay visible. But what happens when none of that feels real? What happens when you do everything right and still feel like something is missing? You're told it's your fault, that you're ungrateful, lazy, behind. But you're not behind. You're just finally slowing down long enough to feel. And that is not failure. That's awakening. You've spent so long tuned into everyone else's frequency that you forgot your own, their expectations, their timelines, their judgments. It's no wonder you feel lost. You were never holding the map. You're not broken. You're not too late. You're just misaligned, disconnected from the truth you buried to fit in, to belong, to survive. And now you're remembering. Remembering that meaning doesn't live in speed. It lives in stillness, in intention. Not in how much you do, but in how deeply you feel it. Not in how fast you go, but in whether you're headed towards something real. You cannot rush into alignment. You return to it by peeling away the noise, by grieving the versions of yourself that performed instead of lived, by reclaiming the pieces of you that you abandoned just to be accepted. The timeline you thought you missed, it was never yours to begin with. It was someone else's story, someone else's dream, and now you're free to begin again. Not with some grand gesture, not with a reinvention, but with a simple, quiet decision to stop running, to turn inward, to come back home, to yourself, the real you, the one who never left, just waited patiently for this exact moment. Wasting your life doesn't come from failing. It comes from something far quieter, more subtle, more socially acceptable. It comes from not choosing, from handing your story over to someone else, to algorithms, expectations, institutions, lovers, parents, and hoping they'll write something beautiful on your behalf. They never do. Instead, they write what's useful to them, what's comfortable, what keeps the machine running. And so we start to blame. We blame time. We blame our parents for what they didn't give us. We blame capitalism for its hunger. We blame heartbreak for hardening us. And yes, all of these things leave marks. They bend the arc of our lives, but they don't define it. The deeper truth, the one that stings, is that you're not stuck because of what happened to you. You're stuck because you stopped deciding. You wake up and check your phone before you check your soul. You let trends decide what you care about. You let your job decide who you need to become. You let your fear decide how loud you're allowed to be. And in doing so, you become a ghost in your own life. Carl Jung warned us, the greatest danger isn't external darkness. It's the unconscious within, the version of yourself you've never dared to meet. Because when you avoid that encounter, you wait. You wait for motivation. You wait for clarity. You wait for the right time, the right version, the right sign. But that version of you, the one you think will finally be bold enough, healed enough, confident enough, isn't coming. There is no future you writing in to save you. There is only now. There is only you, buried beneath distraction, performance, and fear. And maybe it's not the world holding you back. Maybe it's the identity you refuse to let die. The one built to survive, to impress, to be liked, to be safe, to never be too much. But that identity was built during a time when safety mattered more than truth. It protected you then, but it's destroying you now, because safety is not life. Avoiding pain is not freedom. And staying hidden is not peace. It's quiet despair. So the question isn't, what should I do? The question is, what have I never allowed myself to choose? You don't need another morning routine. You don't need to optimize your schedule or read 10 more self-help books. You don't need more time. You need to wake up, to stop waiting for permission, to stop waiting for the fear to go away, because it won't. The fear is part of it. The grief is part of it. The loneliness, the confusion, the doubt, all of it is the doorway. But doorways don't walk through themselves. You have to choose, to stop scrolling and start asking, to stop consuming and start creating, to stop surviving and finally start living. No, it won't be perfect. No, it won't be clean, but it will be yours, because the world does not need the version of you built by algorithms. It doesn't need the one shaped by approval, watered down for acceptance. It needs you, raw, honest, awake. The version of you that has been whispering beneath the noise. The one that remembers what joy used to feel like before it had to be monetized. The one that aches not because it's broken, but because it's ready. Ready to shed the mask, to lose the script, to come home to something real. And the only way to stop wasting your life is to listen to that voice, to that ache, to that truth that won't go away, no matter how many filters you bury it under. It's not too late, but it is time, not to run, not to reinvent, not to escape, but to return to the person you were always meant to be before the world told you who to become. If this made you question the life you're living, it means you're finally waking up. Don't let this be another video you forget. Let it be the moment you choose. Subscribe for more deep dives like this and start writing your story.